please put your hands together for Glenn Jooste, Bitcoin Ubuntu. Thank you, Glenn. Do you need the clicker? Clicker's good. And then do you want to stand over?
I think I'll work. Good morning, everyone. What a privilege it is to be amongst so many incredible builders in Africa. It really, I can't believe I'm standing here amongst you. Thank you for that amazing introduction, Jabu. Sometimes it does feel like I live in spaces. With that introduction taken care of, let's just get into it. Why don't we? The topic for today, I'll be talking about building PoWBot. PoWBot is our proof of work Telegram bot. Also called How AI Unlocks Grassroots Innovation, or I prefer really, How I Accidentally Came to Be a Full Stack Developer. By the way, I am not a programmer. I couldn't code 60 days ago, and I still cannot code today. I'm going to be breezing through these slides very rapidly. They're available on my GitHub, so if you want a little bit more context as to what it is we're doing here, go have a look on our Git. It's open source. The challenge we faced when I joined the CBAF as one of the administrators, I was a member through the whole process. I've been through, this is my 4th epoch with the CBAF. They last 3 months at a time. When I joined the end of 2025, there were a number of, I guess, bottlenecks with the existing system, and most of them had to do with all of the manual work that was having to be done to support, at that time, 36 projects. So that's part of the reason that I was brought on board, was to try and help manage all of this administration, and technically, I was brought on as technical support for those 36 projects. The existing system, as you can see there was a whole lot of manual work that was having to take place. It operated on 3-month cycles. It was working well. It worked very well the first cycle, second cycle, third cycle. We'd grown from 67 videos to 300 videos to 600 videos. These are all proof of work videos being submitted by these circular economies sitting here in the room today. So it was fast becoming apparent that this was working well, but it wasn't going to scale unless we did something. Either bring on more manpower or change things up completely. So during my downtime between technical support, I started to explore different ways that we might consolidate our systems and simplify things, make life easier for the admins and for the users. To begin with, I was just chatting to Grok about this and exploring things like Python scripts and Google Sheets, which is where all of our data resided at the time, on Google Sheets, so that's all the admins had access to it. And in my search for answers, I stumbled on this request. I said to Grok, help me write a basic Telegram bot. And that basically set the trajectory for the next 60 days and brought me here to the stage to talk about what it is we managed to build. The problems we faced were quite a few. As I said already, the manual checking, very time-consuming, importantly also very prone to human error. Issues with payments, rewards, incentives, all of that stuff. So the idea was sound. We just needed to figure out how to actually make it work. It had been working, as I say, already for 3 epochs. A merchant would accept a payment, the project would document the payment, would share the proof of work, and at the end of the 3-month cycle, they would get rewarded for their proof of work. And the merchants, as well, would receive a reward for their participation. So that was all working. Payments going out every 3 months. The data was being tracked manually. So as I've said already, a lot of room for human error, especially when you have 3 or 4 different administrators trying to manage the same processes. So lots of duplicate work and so on. Interclaude. I'd given up more or less on Grok by this point and had moved on to Claude, and what an amazing experience that has been. I brought to the partnership, because that's really what it is my domain knowledge about Bitcoin, about Lightning Network. I'm don't have very deep technical knowledge. I've got general knowledge about this stuff, along with some of the other tools that might be available to us to help problem solve. And then, of course, the user perspective and the administrator's perspective. I had a good idea of what it was we were trying to do and how we might go about doing it. Claude brought to the table all of its technical expertise. This thing can code, it can debug, it can document, it can do the most amazing stuff. First day, it went okay. I took the existing kind of Python scripts that I'd put together for consolidating all of our legacy data and figured, let me combine this with a Telegram bot and let's get AI to go and retrieve our posts and validate them. Seemed like a good idea. We used Grok, fetch X posts. Makes perfect sense. Didn't work very well at all. Grok got all kinds false positives, false negatives. When I tried to get it to validate Noster posts, it went into full-blown hallucinations. It started calling me by other names. It was very confused. But the concept was proven. I knew now, okay, I could get a Telegram bot to fetch data and process it in one way or another. Day 2, this was really the real breakthrough. This is where I realized we're going to strip the AI out of our bots completely, and we're going to teach our bot what it needs to know to do the job for us. And by the end of day 2, I sent a message to Harman to say, the best version costs nothing and runs much faster. Not only that, it had much improved accuracy. So no longer were we calling on Grok or Claude to go and do the work for us. No, we taught our own Telegram bot how to do it. Or at least Claude helped us to teach us to do it. So for 2 days' work, I was blown away that this was working at all. Never mind in such a short time. Fast forward almost 2 months. Tomorrow will be actually today actually is 60 days since I asked Grok 60 days since I asked Grok to help me build a Telegram bot. And what we have now today is so much more. It's made my life easier. It's made all of the admins' lives easier. It's even made our users' lives easier. There's at least 8 major features, depending on how you're going to define a feature. I'd argue there's twice that. There's over 8,000 lines of code, which I'm not really proud of. We're going to rebuild the bot, and we're going to bring that down to 5,000 lines. Reason being that we didn't really go into this with a plan. It kind of evolved into what it is. And now that we know what it is and what it can do, we can rebuild it and purpose-built it to do its job, hopefully more efficiently. Right? This, again, with 0 prior experience. No programming experience, nothing. When we do rebuild, we'll maintain all of those core systems, all of those enhancements. Those are by no means comprehensive, but give you a good idea of what all we accomplished. There's an overview of the system today. You can see there's a lot going on. So what is it, though? And the best answer I've come up with is it's an automated proof of work, verification, and payments system. Now, that's certainly not all it does, but that's its central role. It also acts as an ambassador to onboard new registrants, which makes our lives a lot easier, gathering all of the contact information and details we need from all of the newcomers. We've gone from 36 to well over 40 now, and we're getting more coming. This would not have been possible to add more members without adding more manpower. Quickly, then, how it works, it pretty much remains exactly as it did in the first 3 epochs. We receive the proof of work, but now instead of a human going and assessing the data and logging the data to the spreadsheet, no. The moment that post drops in Telegram, our bot kicks into action. It goes and fetches the posts, it validates, makes sure that everything is required or, according to the mandates of the proof of work requirements. And if it's satisfied, it will go and log all of that lovely data to our tracker, and it'll flag the video for human review. Now, when I said there, it fetches the post and validates and adds it to the tracker. That sounds really straightforward, but this is pretty much everything that's going on behind the scenes in the couple of seconds, anything from a second to 4 or 5 seconds, as it goes through all of the checks, all of the processing and extraction of data, logs it to the data. If it's a Nostr post, it'll even go ahead and like and repost that. It has its own Nostr account. It's able to interact on Nostr. It'll also send a little tip to the merchants. That's just for fun, and it's completely separate from the CBAF payments. At this point, the human comes back into the picture. They review the video. If they're satisfied that the video meets the proof of work requirements, they can simply thumbs up or thumbs down the Telegram post. This wakes our bot back up. It springs into action. If it's been approved, it pays the reviewer for his time and work, it pays the project, and it pays the merchants. If the video is rejected, only the reviewer gets paid for his time. Once everyone's been paid, it automatically logs our payment to our audit sheet, and it sends a receipt to the project lead, to the post submitter, and to the reviewer. It also then generates some lovely stats, and it pushes all those stats to our public dashboard, which can also be found on our GitHub. And from that dashboard, the world can watch as adoption explodes in Africa. This is just a little behind-the-scenes look at what the back office kind of looks like. On the left-hand side there, you've got the Telegram group, the CBAF group, where everybody shares their proof of work. You can see, if you get a bit closer there, that the bot validates, sends a tip, and once it's satisfied that we've met the proof of work requirements, it will log it to the tracking sheet over there, and it'll flag it for human review. The reviewer has his own special tracker that shows him just the pending reviews. Once it's been approved, you'll see our payments go through, and they're added to our audit at the bottom. So we also have a local backup of our payments audit. This is our online shared tracker. And then on the right-hand side there is the conversation between the bot and the administrator. The administrator also receives receipts for any payments that go through, and any other kind of important notifications that they need to be aware of. Again, I can't stress this enough. This is with zero programming. This is all through real conversations, natural language conversations, as if I was speaking to you. These are real conversations I had with the bot, with Claude, in order to fix problems with our bots. One of them we had after about 2 weeks of successful payments, no issues. Within an hour, we had 2 failed payments. I said to Claude, hey, we've got some payments failing. Within 20 minutes, it had solved that problem for us. Same with all these other issues, right? Really, really good at bug fixing, at adding features, simply by having a conversation. The results have been really, I think, very, very surprising. None of our projections came anywhere near the amount of excitement this created. The increased participation, we were absolutely blown away. We could not have guessed how keen people would be to start sharing all of this proof of work. And the increased accuracy, for me as an administrator, was probably the biggest win, if it was worth it just for the increased accuracy, right? In the old way, a submitter would have to wait anything from an hour to a few days for a human to come and review their post and then tell them, hey, like, you're missing this or you're missing that, at which point they're not at their desk, can't be bothered. They end up losing out on that proof of work, right? Whereas right now, as soon as they post it, if there's a problem, the bot says, hey, your Lightning address doesn't work, or your BTC Pay map link is wrong. And immediately they can go and make that correction, resubmit their post, and claim their reward. The development costs we would have been priced out of building anything like this before, right? Borrowing, like using a lot of the funding, instead of giving that funding to our circular economies, we could have spent $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 easily on a developer. We would have waited months to get a prototype into our hands, and then we would have the ongoing maintenance and support costs to bear as well. Versus what actually happened, well, there was the initial testing, which cost a little bit more than $20 a month. I was probably blowing through about $20 a week. But if you pace yourself and don't work quite as obsessively as I was, then you should be fine with $20 a month. Currently, with the bots in a stable, working condition, we're perfectly fine with just the $20, right? Because all we need now is Claude there as our developer support, should we run into an issue or if we want to integrate and upgrade or change. So this really opens it up to anybody. It makes this extremely accessible. How did I learn? Not by coding courses or degrees or textbooks or boot camps, no. I learned simply by doing, by building what it is we needed. This gave me immediate feedback, which could then adapt my approach. And I was solving real problems, which really motivated me to keep going, right? Really, really exciting to be able to solve problems so simply. And then added to that, I had the contextual understanding of what problems we were solving, which helped me understand better why we were applying which tools to which problems, which accelerated my learning. I'd learned a lot faster about all kinds of things than I would have, for example, from a textbook. There's a handful of the problems that we solved together. I won't go into them all. We've solved at least 10 times that many, but it'll give you an idea of the types of problems we came across and solved. I did not need any of this. We are using all of this in our application, but I didn't know a single thing about any of that. I've learned a little bit about all of it by building what I need. So the traditional path could have easily taken 6, 12 months, orders of magnitude more money, the time to learn, to build, to deploy, to iterate, and maintain, versus where we are today with AI-assisted building. You can build and learn at the same time and rapidly reach a point of deployment and iteration. Days or weeks, I say there, but honestly, depending on what you're building, it can be a matter of hours. What you do still need, because AI is not kind of some magic bullet, you need to bring your domain knowledge. You know more about your local Bitcoin environments and your local community and your specific problems than the AI is ever going to. So you need to bring that knowledge to it. You need to bring your thinking cap. You need to bring persistence, because it's not going to get it right the first time. Sometimes it will. But more often than not, you're going to have to try and tackle a problem from different angles, as demonstrated there on day 2, where we completely pivoted our approach, and it worked perfectly. And then communication, that's really probably the easiest. As long as you speak very plainly, very clearly, unambiguously, then Claude is going to bend over backwards to give you what it is you want. And then user empathy. Don't forget that you're not building in a vacuum. You're building for people, for real people. So think about what it is you can do to make their lives easier. So the technical skill is now perfectly accessible to all of us. All you need to bring is your ideas and innovation. So AI is great for all that technical stuff. You still are the architect, the designer, the security reviewer, the innovator. And you are the one who has to consider all of the edge cases. Again, because you live in the real world, you have a perspective that it lacks. You need to kind of fill in the gaps in its knowledge. The bigger opportunity here, I'm really excited to see this all play out. I think it's a massive opportunity for these circular economies especially. This is a room full of innovative thinkers and doers and builders, and this is the kind of tool that can really empower their work. circular economies can now build immediately. They don't have to wait for a developer. They can tackle their problems at their pace. In terms of Bitcoin adoption, I expect we'll see an absolute explosion of grassroots solutions, rapid iterations, and local solutions. What could you build then? I am running a bit fast, so I could have slowed down a bit, but there you go. What could you build? Any of these things could very easily be built today by any non-programmer, right? And there's stuff that only you alone could put on this list, because it's only in your mind, right? You're the only one with that idea. You're the only one that understands your local context. The AI is not going to put your thing on the list. You have to put the thing on the list, okay? This is a little overview of our website, to your question earlier about the CBAF members. At the moment, our PoWBot, over and above having its own Nostr account, it has its own website where it loves to show off all the lovely stats that it stacks. There's no ways I could have built this without Claude. I don't even know how to write HTML, never mind my program. So built by Claude with creative direction from myself. And that gives us an absolutely beautiful overview of all of the projects that are currently active in this program. You'll see not all 42 are participating, or 43, whatever it is now, are participating quite yet. But on our dashboard there, you can easily find all of the active projects. You'll see we have all the X posts for today, all of the Nostr posts today. Those are all of the posts that have been rewarded for their proof of work. So we can very easily now go and find one another's posts to share them without having to troll through the Telegram group. We will add the rest of the CBAF members as well, even those that haven't yet contributed any proof of work. And at the bottom there, we have literally all of the proof of work for this epoch so far, subsequent testing, and we can view all of the proof of work by project or by merchants. There's some other lovely stats, but go have a look at the dashboard yourself. You can find it there on the GitHub. And that basically wraps up my overview of my work, proof of work, and this is where then your journey starts and you take over. Think about what you saw today. If you haven't explored this frontier yet, I think the time is ripe to do so. So think about how could you, what are the sticking points of your projects? Where are the friction points? What do you find yourself doing repetitively? How could it work better? And then start that conversation, whether it's with Grok or Claude or ChatGPT, it doesn't matter. Go start the conversation. How can I build X, Y, or Z? Or how can I help me research this topic? Help me study that topic. A large part of what got Proof of Work Bot to where it is today is I did not ask the AI just to regurgitate or just produce something for me. I took active involvement in guiding it. I was the creative director, I was the architect and the designer, right? So if you're just going to ask Claude, make me a dashboard, you're going to get slop that looks like everybody else's, right? Don't do that. Think of it as a collaboration. You're going to leverage one another's skills. Here's our stack as it stands today. Again, those aren't comprehensive, but give you a very good idea of what it was built with and all of the integrations that we're using. It's all free, except for Claude. You can literally go use all those languages, all those APIs. The only thing we're paying for now is Claude. Why am I sharing this journey with you? Well, I'm hoping that it inspires action. I see a huge opportunity here. I imagine there must be some of you in this room that have had an idea brewing in your head for years, but you haven't had the opportunity or the funding to get a developer or a technical person on board. You don't need them anymore, right? Certainly not for prototyping. So if you've got that idea and you didn't know how to bring it to life, here's your chance. You don't need permission, you don't need a developer, you just need to start. What's next for us? There's a little bit of a roadmap. There's a whole bunch more. I pretty much wake up with ideas for it these days. I really am enjoying this work very much. This is just some of the things that the users can look forward to going forward. Again, go have a closer look on the GitHub. And try it. Start building today. Let me know if you're able to solve any problem with it and connect. Let's see, maybe we can collaborate. Or if you just need a hand getting started, I'm always happy to help. You can find me, as already been mentioned, pretty much always on X. I'm on Telegram. I'm on WhatsApp. You'll find me if you look for me. And all this and more on our GitHub. The bot itself, not completely open source at present, but when we do the rebuild and the refactor, the idea is to split out each of the components. So we have like a Zapper component, we have the Noster, like and re-like components, we have the BTC map components, we have the Blink payments components. And when I do the rebuild, the idea is to build it in modules, so that any of you can go and fetch my module for payments or my module for reposts and plug it into your infrastructure, right? And with that, don't know, am I over time? Am I good? Good? Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn. No, hang on, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere.
Good time for questions.
How's that for a lesson in learning, growing, and sharing with each other? And I mean, that's pretty much how we as educators are growing in our communities. The way you build a BCE is to start with the first person you need to buy something from and try to convince them to accept Bitcoin for the stuff you're already buying. And then you teach them, and then you teach your family member, and you teach your friend, and then you chat to somebody who is into coding. You're like, hey man, do you understand Bitcoin? And you know how much is open source, and do you know what that is? And go there, and then you start, and then you end up here, where a question takes you somewhere crazy. Like, what is money?
Pretty crazy.
Right? Question nobody's ever asked. And here you go, it's like, how do I, code a Telegram bot? And Bob's your uncle. Any questions for Mfundisi Glenn, who's, yes, Herman.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say, when Glenn came up with this thing, I was blown away. I had no idea. I mean, I asked him to help, and then 2 weeks later, he came up with this. It was so cool. It's one of the coolest things I've seen. And there's a conversation that I've tried to get going, which is this idea of Bitcoin circular economies not yet being factories, but can turn themselves into factories. And this is exactly what I was referring to, because this is the kind of thing that comes out of circular economy building. It's a super cool thing. I would, if you can leave that address up there. It's a little bit too small. You should make that address bigger, because I need everybody to go and look at that dashboard. It is the coolest thing.
If you just look for Bitcoin Ubuntu on GitHub, you'll get to the dashboard there. Or otherwise, you can ask any of the circular economy leads here. They can actually get to the dashboard through the bots. So they can actually show you how the bots, what the bot looks like in Telegram, because they have their own little dashboard where they can look up the guide, they can look up their tracker, they can look up the latest audits, all that lovely stuff. But it is available there on my Git. It is open source. Feel free to do with it what you want.
I just wanted to ask one question. If you could maybe, I don't know if I missed it. I missed the first 2 minutes. I was on a phone call. But if you could just say something about the difficulty adjustment that's
Yeah.
the most recent addition to what you build. And because it's just kind of an example of how this thing sort of evolved on its own. It's like we didn't know we were going to do this. And then you came up with this idea to put a difficulty adjustment in there.
Sure. I don't know. Can we go back in the slides? Does this go back?
Yeah, go for it. Anybody else have something they want to bring up? While Glenn is...
That's it, yeah. Does it?
Just need to add volume on that mic at the back there, please. Brendan.
So, okay, cool. All right, so... yeah, great question. The bot has just surprised us, like over and over and over. One of the very first issues we faced, in fact, let me go to the next slide, is our projections. Our most bullish projections were just completely blown out of the water. We were expecting kind of the results we got there on day one, maybe 16 submissions in a day. By day 3 or 4, we were panicking because we were burning through the sats way faster than we had anticipated. And the question was like, now what? What are we going to do? And we thought, okay, well, maybe like it's just, you know, initial excitement. It'll wear off. Let's see what happens. And then a new all-time high, and another new all-time high, and another new all-time high. By day 7, we knew we had a problem. What we were going to do about it. So I took a page out of Bitcoin's book, and we introduced our difficulty adjustments. It's based on Bitcoin's difficulty adjustments. You know, as more miners come to try and mine the coin, we make it harder to find. Same principle. We had too many people submitting too much proof of work and like draining our coffers. So we introduced a difficulty adjustments. Now, once every 1,008 blocks, we assess our burn rate and we adjust our rewards accordingly. That's manually done at the moment, but one of the next integrations will be to do that algorithmically and let the bot manage that process for us automatically.
I'm going to ask the question after I clarify. I realize that me, Glenn, and Haman, we are in an echo chamber, guys. Proof of work videos, these project leads and the people they work with, they go on ground and they film real-life transactions of merchants being paid in Bitcoin and the people who pay them. And how we qualify them as a good proof of work videos is there has to be repeated visits to the merchant. That's one. And the video has to show both the payment, like the 2 confirmations from the person who is paying into the merchant's wallet. So the whole proof of work thing is built to incentivize the community builders here to spend as much sats in their community. So how Glenn gets there is because these guys are doing so much work. So that's why he has to difficulty adjust. Now my question to Glenn is, with the experience of building this bot, how can we give this tool to other circular economies that are not in Circular Bitcoin Africa Fund without compromising the internal structure? Because we've already created this based on our experience. Have you thought of a future where it is kind of customizable to the rules that we've worked with? Or do we encourage as many people across, let's say, South America, the people who are building circular economies out of Africa? How can they use it? Have you thought about something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I want to open source those components so that they can kind of assemble it in whichever way they please, in a way that works for them. We have already had some conversation about scaling this to the broader Federation of Bitcoin Circular Economies, the FBCE. It's certainly not ready for that. I think if we do go that route, then maybe that is the time to get a real-life program on board to help a little bit more. But the potential is certainly there to scale it a lot larger than it already is, and to fork it and to, you know, modify it as you please. And you don't have to wait for me to refactor and open source it. You could build this yourself relatively easily. You know, obviously in the last 6 months, there's been a fair amount of edge cases discovered and issues that we had never thought to identified, and all of that's been addressed. So it has been kind of battle-hardened and battle-tested over the last 6 months. In fact, when I suggested the idea we rebuild it from the ground up to Claude, it was like, nah, bruv, let's not. But we're gonna, okay?
Awesome, thanks, Glenn. Open source everything, it's going that way. This is where a lot of what Glenn's work has come from. So, I mean, that's the principle of what makes Bitcoin special. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
This is amazing. Making it work.